Welcome to Staying Home with Stacey. I'm glad you stopped by my YouTube channel here. Today we're going to make some chocolate caramel tarts. They look amazing. I've never made them before. It's a brand new recipe for me. We'll have some fun doing this. We do have a couple moments where we'll be baking or chilling, and we'll turn off the camera for a few, but we'll splice it all back together. So it's one thing for you. Takes a little longer than it's going to look, though. Just fair warning. Now I've already mixed up my 1 1/4 cup flour, my 2 1/2 tablespoons of this dark cocoa baking powder. And it's important that you get the Dutch process for this recipe. At least that's what it says. We'll find out. And there's a 1/2 cup of sugar in here and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I've already mixed it all up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a stick of unsalted butter. They say to add it cold and to have it cut up into small pieces. So that's what I did, and we're going to add that, and we're going to mix that with the mixer. We'll see how these turn out. We're going to make all three components, the middle, the filling. There's a chocolate topping. And of course, this is a chocolate. Just gonna throw those in there, separate little pieces. And we'll mix it up with the mixer. See how that turns out. Now this appears to make kind of like a pie pastry for the bottom portion of the tart. Judging from the flour and the butter and the way you fold in the butter, we're making quite a mess. So it's going to be kind of like a pie pastry, but it'll be chocolate, of course. Now the recipe does say to use a pastry blender, but I don't have one of those, so we're improvising and hoping for the best. Once we have this mixed in a little bit, we are going to add 1 egg and then a couple tablespoons of really cold water. Stir that up a little bit and get ready to add in the egg and the water and see how that helps us make our pastry shell. Kind of mash up our little bits of butter that got stuck in there that didn't blend completely. Okay. So we'll add that egg. And then we also need to add some water. And the recipe says to add ice water. So we're here in Louisiana, and your tap water does not get that cold. It's interesting, but during the summer in Louisiana, tap water does not get that cold. So I put this in the fridge for a while. I'm just going to throw in 1 tablespoon and mix it up, and we'll see how that does, and if we need more, we'll add more. Yeah, so I'm going to add another tablespoon of water to this because it's very, very dry. And we just don't want it too dry. And we'll get back to mixing it this way and see how that works for us. You can see that we still got our butter not mixed up very well in there, and we're still going to need a little bit more water, it looks like, because this just is not getting to the consistency that we want. Yes, my hands are clean. I don't know about the rest of you, but I wash my hands about 40 times a day, and every time I touch something. So we'll get back to mixing it this way, see if we can't get that to the consistency that we want. And then once we're done with this part, then we just need to flatten it into one kind of a disc shape of dough, and we need to let it chill for a little while. And the reason for that is because then we're going to roll it out after it's chilled for a bit, and we're going to make the individual tart shells. And we'll do that in the cupcake tin. So as you can see, adding that water really improved our texture, really made for a much, much better texture, and it's helping us to blend that in a little better. Now the butter is still not mixing in as well as I'd like, and I think that's going to take some additional stirring. We did have the butter cold, which is what the recipe said, and I think that that's probably a consistency thing as well, because you don't want your butter too soft, but maybe just a little bit soft so that you can work with it. Might be the way to go. But as you can see now, I'm kind of able to mix this down in together. So what I'm going to do is just mix this together, push it down into a disc, and we're going to, or a disc shape, it'll be round. We're going to get our hands in there and use our hands. Just like you're kneading some dough. And we'll let that chill for a little while so that then we can roll it out and cut it into the shape that we need. So we will pause for just a moment while this chills. You go chill, the dough is going to chill, I'm going to chill, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, all right, so we let our dough chill for about 20 minutes, and it's still a little difficult to work with, to be honest, and it may have been that extra teaspoon of water. We'll have to kind of see. But what we want to do is we want to roll it out a little bit, and we want to make little pastries. So you can see we still got some unmixed butter in there. As we roll, we'll mix that up. And we may have to take a break and chill this again. But, so what we're doing is you need about a round so that it'll fit in a muffin tin. And I don't have a cookie cutter that size, but I have this fantastic pint glass, Go Spartans, and I'm just going to use that to kind of cut that out. And then we're going to press it in here. So it's going to look like that. Eventually we will bake these. I'm going to try to do it kind of quick because I don't want my dough to get too warm and too hard to work with. Just kind of push those in. And again, you know, honestly, I don't know if this is going to turn out well or not. I've never made this. It looked really delicious. I wanted to give it a try. We'll see. I figured, how could I go wrong with, you know, chocolate and caramel, and then you top it with some sea salt. I mean, how could you go wrong there, right? But we'll see. So the recipe says that it'll make about 9 of these little tarts. Hillary and I have been watching British TV lately, some some British crime shows, and occasionally they call each other tart, and that's fun. So when we're talking about making tarts, this is different than those kind of tarts, right? So we'll just keep kneading this and rolling it out. Make those little wells that eventually are going to hold caramel, and then they're going to be topped with a dark chocolate, and then we'll sprinkle a little sea salt on them. I think they're just going to be so good. And the smell's amazing. I really wish you all could smell how good the dough smells. That chocolate is just fantastic. Now we're going to push these in here, and then once we have all these in, we're going to show this again for a little bit, and then we will take it out and we're going to bake them for I think about 20 minutes. And when we bake them, we're going to put, I've got some little squares of parchment that we're going to put on top of them, and then we're going to put either some dry beans or some rice in there to kind of hold them down so that they don't, you know, well up. So we've got a place to put our filling. I think I can get 3 more out of this. As it gets softer, as it gets warmer, it is getting a little more difficult to handle. It's getting stickier. So we can certainly get 2 more, and that'll be our 9, like the recipe says. Some of these are a little thicker than others. It's very sticky. I would recommend maybe, if you're going to try this at home, I would recommend maybe chilling it for a little longer. And then it might be a little easier to roll out thin. I had a real hard time rolling it out thin. So some of these are pretty thick. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a 9th one out. We'll see if we can make some of this stretch a little. It's very, very sticky. So I'm going to take some of the excess off some of these others and see if I can make one. Because some of these really got quite thick. Just because, again, it was difficult to roll them out. And I'd like to be able to make the full batch. This one's really thick, so we'll take from that one. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, I've managed to make 9 of these. And again, I'm going to chill these for, recipe says half an hour. We'll do the full half hour. And then we'll pull them out and we'll prepare them to bake. And we'll get them baked. And then we'll work on the filling. Okay? So we've got about half an hour to chill. Okay, so we chilled this for half an hour. And then we went through all of these little muffin tins here with the pastry in, and we just poked them with a fork so that they don't bubble up while they're cooking. Now we're going to take a little square of parchment, and I pre-cut all of these, and we're just going to put a little bit of rice in there. That's going to act as a weight to hold that down so that it'll hold its shape. Obviously, we don't want it to come up from the bottom, and then we won't be able to put any filling in. Once you use this rice for this purpose, then the rice is going to obviously have to be thrown out. We'll do that when we take these out of the oven. We're going to cook these at 350. We're going to bake them at 350 for 10 minutes with the parchment in. And then we'll take the parchment and the rice out and bake it for another 10 minutes, also at 350. You can use beans, or some people have pie weights. I think I'm going to buy some if I'm going to get into making this sort of stuff. Some pie weights, just because I think they'd be handy to have. The only beans we had are some dry red beans, and we didn't want to use those because we want to make red beans and rice. We just didn't want to use up our beans, so we're using the rice. And once I'm done with this, I'm just going to pop these in the oven, and we will do 10 minutes at 350 with the weights in, and then another 10 minutes at 350 with the weights out, and then we're going to let them cool a bit. We'll take them out of the pan, and then we'll work on our filling and our topping. Okay, so this is going into the oven right now. Okay, so we've baked and cooled our shells. And I did break off just a little piece and taste it. It tastes really good. These do not look as delightful as I had hoped. But I think with a little practice, I could make them look better. In reading up on it, really that dough, I should have put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours up to 24 hours, and I only did half an hour, so that's why it was so sticky and difficult. Still, using the weights, the rice for a weight, really helped hold them down, so I do have a well in there that I can put the filling. But again, with practice, I think they'll look better. They do taste good. So now we're going to make the caramel filling, and the first thing we have to do is get our sugar to an amber color. And we've got a cup of sugar in here, and we're going to cook it down so that it becomes a nice amber color. When it does that, we're going to add 6 tablespoons of butter. Again, it's unsalted, and this butter is at room temperature. So so I cut it into tablespoon size pieces, and I'll add it by that, but it is at room temperature. It's been sitting out for quite a while. Once we add the butter, we will add half a cup of heavy whipping cream, and I've got that all poured out. And then once those are all combined, we'll add a teaspoon of sugar, or a teaspoon of salt, excuse me. So we've got a cup of sugar in here. You want to get the sugar to a nice amber color, and then you're going to add 6 tablespoons of butter, which is room temperature and cut into tablespoon-sized pieces, and a half a cup of heavy whipping cream, along with a teaspoon of salt. Now, having just the sugar in the pan does make me a little nervous because I don't want to burn it. So I'm stirring it quite a bit, and I'm waiting to see it change color, which is not happening yet, but hopefully soon. It does take a while. And then once we've done this and filled our little pastry cups, then we will make the topping, which is really just some chocolate and heavy whipping cream again. I don't think I want to turn this up too much more. I've got it right at a medium temperature. Maybe I'll give it one more turn. But I don't want this to burn, so I want to be careful with it. And we're using an electric stove, so when you're using an electric stove, you do have to kind of account for the fact that it takes a minute to heat up, takes a while to cool down. Just because of the way it's designed. Gas stove, you won't have quite as much time heating up and cooling down like that. So I'm still not really seeing a color change here. And I should probably quit playing with it, but it concerns me. I want to make sure I do it right. I have a feeling this is the part where if you're going to make a mistake, this would be the part that you could screw up. If your sugar gets burnt, then your caramel filling is going to taste really burnt and kind of nasty, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants burnt, nasty filling. So we just want to be kind of cautious. And again, this is something I've never done. I do your basics with baking, cakes, cookies, that sort of thing. I don't get too crazy. I make a great cheesecake, but I'm branching out here. This is a recipe I saw on Facebook. I thought, well, you know, I might as well try something new. It looks really good. And then once we have it all finished, all put together, then you top it off with just a little sprinkle of sea salt. So I think it's going to be super delicious. Just, I just need to get it done. So I'm still not seeing really a color change here. Stove is on though. So we're just going to keep doing this until we see a color change. This might take a while, I don't know. Hopefully through the magic of editing we can speed this part up for you a little bit. So we're just starting to get the sugar's starting to change a little bit here. So we'll just keep stirring it. It's still not an amber color, but it is changing color. It's getting a little darker looking. It's kind of a cream color right at the moment. I want to make sure I get a nice, rich looking color to it before I add my butter and my cream. You can see how more and more of it is changing color. Once we get it a little bit darker, we'll start adding our other stuff to it. Looks almost like when you're cooking rice right now. But really we want it all to be maybe that color or a little darker. And I keep stirring it to make sure that it doesn't burn and doesn't stick to the sides or get too dark. We just want a nice color, not real brown. You can see we're getting some good color right there. And it's starting to get more liquidy as well, which of course we want. We're getting a nice amber liquid going here. So it'll just be another moment or two and we'll mix in that butter. Yeah, that's starting to look really good. That's a really nice color. So we'll go ahead and start putting the butter in. And as we do that, we're going to stir it some more. We're going to go ahead and turn our burner off because, again, it's an electric stove, so that burner is still going to be hot. And I don't want to scorch my filling. As I'm getting it all stirred up and my butter is getting melted and mixed in. Oh, that smells so good, doesn't it? So now we're going to move it over off of the hot burner. We're going to go ahead and add in that heavy whipping cream. And again, we're stirring it almost constantly to make sure that it mixes together. It doesn't get too warm, or too cold, I mean, too cool, and not mix well together. So I moved it back over to the hot burner because I noticed that I was having some problem with clumping. And again, not having done this before, I'm just not sure what's causing that problem, and I don't want to have it not mixed up. So I'm going to stir it all together, switch to a wooden spoon to get a little more control than what I had with the spatula, and we're on the warm burner here. We just want to get that sugar back mixed up. I don't want to use, I would go for a whisk here. However, you know, really to do the job properly, you'd need a wire whisk. And you don't want to use wire utensils in coated pans. So we'll just keep going with the wooden spoon. We're getting those lumps out. And we'll keep it on the heat. That's certainly helping. And then once we have that problem handled, then we will add a teaspoon of salt, and we'll put these in our little cups. I'm just kind of using the wooden spoon to break up those bits of sugar that I got. And I think I will go for a little more heat here. I may have taken it off the burner too soon. My heavy cream was not room temperature when I added it. I had left it in the fridge, so that could be part of the issue here. I feel like the sugar probably got cooled a little quickly and it clumped like this. So we're just going to heat it all up together and see if we can't get those to melt out. So I want to make sure I have a really good filling. This is one of those times that I wish my mom lived closer, because she would absolutely have the answer for why this is happening the way it is. She makes homemade caramels at Christmas time, and they're so good. But I've never made them by myself, so, you know, little issues here. But those lumps are going away. I've just got a couple more here. So the heat was part of the issue. We're getting that fixed. And then we'll add the salt. And we'll let it cool for just a moment, and then we'll add it to our pastry. So, teaspoon of salt. And we'll stir that in. Okay. Now it's actually safe to remove it from the heat, so we will. We're going to let that cool for just a moment and then put it in the cups. And while it firms up, we'll make the topping for it, the final piece. So hang with us. We'll get these finished eventually. Okay, so we've filled up our little tart cups with the caramel. And it actually turned out pretty well, even though we had some issues. while we were making it, some things that we learned: don't take it off the heat too early. Really stir it up good. It does take quite a bit because that sugar does glob up. Now we're making the final part while we're cooling the rest of the tart. So what we're doing is we've got half a cup of heavy whipping cream. So this is not something that you'd want to make if you were, say, dieting. You know, it's high in fat, obviously, high in sugar. Again, we've got more heavy whipping cream. We used it in the caramel. We're using it here in the topping. But we're just going to heat this up. And once the edges start to boil a little bit, I'm going to remove it from the heat. And I'm going to add the chocolate that I chopped up. And this is actually 60% bittersweet premium baking chocolate. So you know what type of chocolate we're using. And again, we just have to wait for this to heat up, and then we're going to add the chocolate in. We're going to let it sit for about a minute off of the heat, just so that they can melt. We'll stir them up together, and then at that point we should be able to top our little tarts. So far, everything tastes great, even though the presentation is not what I was hoping for first time around with this, but I think that it's something that can be perfected. But do be aware that it's a long process to make this. There are, 3 distinct steps to it, and with resting time and baking time, you're looking at about 4 hours or so. So it's not something that you're just going to throw together real quick. And our cream is almost warm enough, but I don't want to have it not hot enough. So I'm just going to let it go a little bit longer here. And then we'll add that chocolate. Once we're all done with these, we do top them off with just a little sprinkle of sea salt. And I think that's really going to add to it. That'll make them super delicious. Also, it says that it makes 9. The recipe says you can make 9 of the tarts out of this. You could probably get a dozen out of it. We did have some leftover filling that we saved because we're going to heat it up and use it as ice cream topping. We didn't want to waste it. It was really good. And also my tart shells are a little thick, so you could probably get 12 out of those as well. And this definitely looks like it's hot enough. It is starting to bubble around the edges a little bit, and I don't want to get it too hot. So I'm just going to dump this in. Oops, all of it. And we'll let that mix in. And we want to let it sit for about a minute. So we'll just go ahead and set the timer on that. Let it get nice and melted together. Give it a chance to blend, and then we'll stir it up and we will top our tarts. I'm really excited to try them. They look delicious. All of the components have been delicious so far. So again, with a little practice, I think that the presentation will be better. They're a little messy looking. I'm not going to make any more tart jokes. Okay, I am. Nobody likes a sloppy looking tart. Oh, I crack myself up. If you've watched any of these videos, you knew it was coming. There's always a point where Hillary and I make some stupid joke and then we crack ourselves up. It just happens. So there's our timer. And now we're just going to stir this up, get it nice and melty and blended. It looks so delicious. Yeah, look at that. That looks so good. So very good. So we're just going to get this nice and mixed up, and then we're going to go top our tarts. Okay, yeah, that's about perfect right there. So let me get the tarts out of the fridge. And as you can see, those look really, really good, don't they? I mean, who can resist a little chocolate cup full of caramel? Not me. So now I'm just going to put this on top, and hopefully that's going to float on top. That one might be a little overfull. This one is not. Again, my cups are not as beautiful as I had wanted, so it is a little sloppy looking. Still, they're going to be delicious, so that's the important part. Just gonna put a little more on here. I don't want to overfill them, but I do see I've got some little bit of running over. Okay. And then we're just going to let those set up, and while they are, we're just going to sprinkle a tiny bit of sea salt. Does anyone else have to stab these things like that? I just can't get them with my finger. Just a little sprinkle, some beautiful fine sea salt, and there you go. Beautiful. All right. Thank you for watching. Have a great evening.